welcome back to day 2 of Lock-In. Of course, I'm Golden Boy, joined by Mimi and Seth, and we're going to be breaking down a pretty awesome battle. It's actually going to be for Achilleos' love of DRX and the amazing Turkish fan base that are going to be cheering on BBL. Of course, I'm talking about DRX versus BBL, and it's a pleasure to have you guys back. Real quick, Mimi, I want to get your thoughts on that last game.
That was a game of VALORANT that I've ever watched in my life.
Fascinating.
And I did watch it, and it went into my brain.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I'm really happy for you.
It's going to stick there for a very, very long time.
It is burned into my retinas.
It's parasitic.
Yes. Wonderful. I had so many things I wanted to go to, but let's just move on here. Because first, we have to talk about the Korean squad that did the impossible last year. They broke the curse. They did what we thought would have been what? Why? Who's making these?
I thought we fixed this earlier.
Brennan Sideshow aren't even here anymore.
There's an alert.
What's the alert?
Well, it's pretty simple, GB, and it says you get to see them walking out of the van. It's going to be that Foxy 9 is not going to be starting here for DRX. That's right, everything that Stax said to Yinsu in her interview with him was a lie. It is not going to be him kicking things off. And to me, personally, it doesn't really shock me too much, but this does mean that we have Zest back in the starting 5 alongside all of the other familiar faces that we, and especially me, know and love.
Over the shoulder, quiet. Oh
Yeah.
my God,
Oh
Zest
my.
is spicy tamale.
But yeah, so we have the same 5-man roster that managed to place 3rd at Champions. And my best guess is just that coming over here, starting to get into scrims, they said, okay, you know what? It's not looking as good as we need it to be. We know that this is going to be a single elimination event. Let's go back to the roster that got us the furthest that we've ever been, and let's just see if that works out from here. So they have Zest back through. So all of those leaked little screenshots of like, oh, Zest is scrimming with them. What does it mean? It means that he's playing with them. So there you have it.
There you go. I mean, congrats again to Bren for the fantastic
That's what I was
journalism
going to say.
to
Does
find
that
that
mean
one out.
Bren was not crazy?
He was still crazy.
Oh, okay.
He was
Never
just
mind.
accidentally
Never
right.
mind.
Yeah, but this is an exciting one for DRX because, well, it does mean that it's not quite what we expected. It's the best that we've ever seen out of Korea. Like you said, they broke through their barrier here, and they're now coming into this event as one of the few rosters that have completely stuck to their core.
Yeah, and you know, I think in looking at the players that we want to put a focus on, I think, you know, to quote the great Bret Hart, one of the best there is, best there was, and best there probably ever will be, we of course got to talk about Stax, because Stax, he's coming into this one with a lot of energy, a lot of heart, a lot of gusto as well, isn't that right, Seth?
They caught him mid-vamo right there with that that photo. But yeah, I mean, so Stax, I think that honestly didn't have the flashiest Champions performance compared to what we have seen from him in the past. But he still was there during those clutch moments. That A-Heaven drop down on Ascent to really shut FPX out, to continuously guide his team across the finish line. He still has plenty of highlight plays for sure, so we'll roll those through. But it wasn't as nearly as Stax dominant when it came down to the kill feed as we were used to seeing in previous events, especially looking at him over in VCT Korea. He had a little bit of quieter performance, but he is still the foundation of this
leader.
team. They tried having Zest widely take the shot calling, didn't work out, went straight back over to Sax, and then from there it was just upward trajectory.
Yeah, and Istanbul, that was with, I think, about a week of practice with him slotting back into the IGL role. Now you've had this off-season time, obviously, doing the kind of shuffle with Foxy and Zest, but you've had a lot more opportunity to prepare, to get the system working with Stax as the IGL again. We saw his impact back at Istanbul, and now with even more time, I think it's going to be even better.
Yeah, and I think the roster coming together the way that it is, the core that made that incredible run happen in Istanbul is here to make a statement again. And, you know, DRX, they are back. They are ready to make a big splash in 2023. So let's go ahead and check out this video. And, of course, meet DRX once again.
Hi, I'm Stax from DRX. 저는 일단은 IG를 맡고 있고 이제 첫 부대를 하고 있고, 그리고 이제 제 성격은 그냥 뭔가 조용할 땐 조용하고 미친놈일 땐 미친놈이고 그냥 좀 살짝 카멜레온 같은 느낌이 있는 것 같아요. 그렇고 이제 제스트 선수는 이제 제스트 선수도 첫 부대를 맡고 있고 이제 진짜 이제 밖에서 볼 때는 이제 조금 조용하고 이제 조금 겸손해 보이는 사람 같지만 이제 실제로 보면은 엄청 더럽고 이제 거든요. 버즈 선수는 이제 저희 팀에서 이제 어떻게 보면 이제 모든 역할을 맡고 있고, 버즈 선수가 이제 저희 팀에서 이제 진짜 만약에 얘가 프로 게이머를 안 했다면은 저는 진짜 얘가 어떤 일을 했을까 저는 상상이 감이 안 듭니다 지금. 알비 선수는 이제 알비 선수도 저희 팀에서 플렉스를 맡고 있고 이제 알비 선수는 뭐라 해야 될까 그냥 진짜 전형적인 이제 뭔가 서울 사람이라고 해야 되나 뭐라 하는지 잘 모르겠지만 그냥 조용할 때 조용하고 잘 어울릴 때 잘 어울리는 그냥 친구 같은 느낌이에요. 그리고 이제 새로 들어온 폭신한 선수는 타격대를 맡고 있고 이제 제가 봤을 때는 이제 조금 이제 좀 애니메이션 같은 걸 좀 좋아하다 보니까 조금 자기만의 세상에 좀 빠져있는 경향이 좀 많거든요. 그런 걸 좀 끄집어내줘야 되는데 마코 선수는 이제 저희 팀에서 이제 전략가를 맡고 있고 이제 좀 성격이 좀 이상해요. 얘는 좀 한 번씩은 좀 다가
안녕하세요. 저는 DRX의 마코라고 하고요. 이름은 김명관이고 제가 DRX에서 역할을 맡고 있는 건 이제 컨트롤러 연막 담당입니다. 일단은 특별한 점이라고 생각을 하면은 일단 다른 선수들이랑은 좀 다르게 좀 많이 차분한 것 같고 성격상 말이 별로 없어가지고 오히려 더 게임에 집중할 수 있는 점이 제가 좀 다른 사람들보다 이제 게임의 집중력이 좀 더 올라가지 않나. 일단은 결국에는 국제대회라는 게 중요한 거기 때문에 일단 싱글 랠리라는 점은 이제 단 한 번의 실수도 용납하지 않는다는 뜻으로 더블 랠리보다 더 실수를 줄이고 더 연습을 좀 더 세게 하고 막 그래야 될 것 같아요. 일단은 32개의 팀한테 하고 싶은 말은 그냥 아마 연습한 대로 이제 결과가 나올 거고 뭐 연습 안 한 팀은 그대로 첫 경기하고 바로 집 가는 거죠 뭐.
Well, there was DRX, and a team that we are all very familiar with, Mimi, but, you know, very interesting stuff there. And also, Stax kind of has a little bit of a potty mouth.
Yeah.
You know?
They had to shut that guy down. They had to censor it. Good. Don't let your kids watch. Except let them watch. We need that viewership.
We need that viewership.
Keep that pumped
we
up.
need the views. Come on,
Yeah,
guys.
please. But I did think something interesting in that is that he was mentioning Foxy as the duelist player in that little piece of tape. And to my understanding, they were practicing and fully intending to play with Foxy coming into this event. I think this switch back to Zest is pretty last minute. And with Foxy being the duelist and Zest being more kind of an initiator player, flexible one, the roles might have been swapped up a little bit. So I'm wondering if they've had to kind of make a last minute pivot to bring this guy back into the roster, back to what they used to play.
Time will tell, but I think that if anything, this is going to be going back to comfort, so you would expect that it still would be quite strong for them and that you wouldn't have any real growing pains because they were able to do that for so very long. So we'll have to just wait and see, but I would still be, you know, I put my faith in the team.
Yeah, I totally get it, and of course it's apropos for you as well. But let's move on to their opponent. It's going to be BBL, which is an EMEA team, honestly, like no other. They are the Clout Kings of Turkey. Also want to give a special shout out to our boy Vlad as well, who looked out for us big time when we were in Istanbul. He's one of the coaches here on BBL. And Mimi, this squad, you know, they've had some ups and downs as far as the IGL row goes, but overall, I'm expecting them to come out guns blazing.
It'll be interesting to watch. BBL is not a new roster. You might not be familiar with them, but they've been around for quite a while. The core of this team has been competing within Turkey for just over the last year here. And now they're coming into this event as their first show internationally for this squad.
Yeah, and of course, you know, stepping into that IGL role, Sushni, who feels from our interview that we were talking to him a little bit, like very comfortable being able to fall into this position. He says, yeah, you know, the pressure is there, and I earned that pressure, and it's good, and he's playing off of it. So it's I think that this is still going to be a very scary task for both teams.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the issue with this squad for quite a while. There has been a big gap of IGLs in Turkey. Valorant is kind of the first FPS game that really popped off in that region, so there wasn't a lot of kind of pre-existing IGLs. But Sasha, he said in a quote here that because of that lack of IGLs, because the Turkish region, the FPS culture is still under development, a lot of players don't choose to be an IGL. IGLing chooses them, and he talked more and said that that was basically what happened with him, right? He started off trying to play other roles, and eventually he kind of got forced into sliding into this IGL role, but kind of fell in love with playing that, and it's now one of the most highly respected IGLs in the Turkish region.
And you also have to think as well about like how, right, like the pressure that is going to be sitting on him there. And I think that, you know, and us talking to Sushni, like he definitely is ready to step up to that challenge. But the team recently, of course, signed that IGL, and And, you know, I think it's there are a lot of weapons on this squad. But then on the flip side to that, you also have guys like, and I'm going to butcher this, it's Kushner X, I believe. I'm the worst. Kushner. But regardless, I apologize. But regardless of that, I'm really looking forward maybe to seeing what he could do on the server as well.
Yeah, this guy has been fantastic as an individual. I mean, Brendan was talking about him earlier. He is the star player of all star players, the classic Turkish jet. He's been in the chamber world for a while, but now it looks like this meta is going to get him back to the role he loves.
I've been hearing whispers on the wind. The streets have been talking, as Bren loves to say, about Kushner in his scrims leading up to this match where he's been apparently dropping like 30 bombs against pretty much anybody that he's playing against. This is going to be the one thing that DRX will really need to tackle, because if he is let loose, then good God, he is going to just run rampant in the lobby.
And that goes back to Suchi, because this guy has been on the roster for quite a while, but you need a good leader to mold these strong players into a great team.
Well, you know, before we move on, let's actually get to know the roster of BBL a little bit better.
Ben Aslan Maşadov, BBL'de oynuyorum. 3 yıldır en eski üyesiyim takımın. Ve Flex oynuyorum ajan olarak.
Hello, I'm Sochny from BBL. I'm the in-game leader for the team.
Bu sezon Sochny'nin gelmesi IGL olarak bence takımı çok atlattırdı. Bir üst seviye atlattırdığını düşünüyorum.
Me coming in the team, we went straightly to the gaming house and we really became brothers in really short time, in like 1 month. And I love everyone in here.
Buraya savaşmaya geldik, parçalamaya geldik, yok etmeye geldik.
Kushner is our jet duelist main. We call him Cellat in Turkish, which means executioner. Turko is our support player. He does everything for the team and he makes the morals up. Brave is our like little brother. He's a good friend. Aslan is everything. Aslan is everything. He's a really different guy. He can make the impossible possible.
Turnuvada herhangi bir rakipten çekinmiyoruz veya korkmuyoruz ama Fnatic'in güçlü olduğunu düşünüyorum. Orada bir arkadaşım var Alfajer. Ona da buradan selam gönderiyorum.
People shouldn't underestimate the BBL. I think we are more than what they think about us. We will show them in Brazil.
Günlere kolay geldiğimizi düşünmüyorum. Hayal ettik, başardık, inandık. DRX'e hazırız. Heyecan var tabii ki. Emniyete söyleyin, kimse emniyette değil.
You know, when I hear these BBL players talk, it sounds like what it was they were waiting for the pieces, you know, they to kind of go into place here. And I think they might have just found it, Mimi.
They might have, but that's still only freshly built, and that's versus a DRX roster that has been building their legacy for years with this core that are coming back with the same roster as last year. So this is going to be a very tough match for them.
It absolutely is, but imagine what it will feel like for these players on BBL if they can actually take them down. If you take down the third-place team from Champions last year with the same roster, they haven't had any shakeups, it would be absolutely monstrous. And I can't even imagine how Sushni in particular would feel having been the one holding that pressure, channeling it into his performance, and guiding these players to that win.
Yeah, and these players have talked about it. You heard in that quote earlier that, you know, they've talked about how the Turkish scene is still very much in development. And for a team of all Turkish players to be able to make waves, find a big upset like that in an international event would be huge for this team and Turkey as a whole.
Yeah, and let's not forget too, like, yes, we think the world of DRX, they have had some incredible runs, but despite champions, I mean, their season also was a little rocky in 2022 as well, right? A few times where they would struggle in the early games or maybe like the early rounds, maybe get figured out. And also, let's not forget, there's just a lot of tape, Seth, on this lineup that could be detrimental to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty to study, at least for, you know, all of the maps we were in previously. Pearl, they've never played it, so that could be something as well that maybe they have up their sleeve. Lotus as well. Obviously, we have tape on basically nobody other than FPX and KC. So there is a lot to study. You're absolutely correct in that regard. But DRX have always been innovators. They don't like to run the same thing. When they did try to keep playing the same comps over and over again, that's when they kind of got clipped in the rear, and that's when they didn't make it to the first international event, and we saw Newturn on the stage being able to achieve third.
And I think that's exactly kind of the point we're at right now, because we've come into this year with a very different meta, with some changes from kind of the defining agents of last year. So they will have had to have made some changes, come up with some new game plans in the offseason. I think the success of that really relies on the success of this team, because in the past, like you said, when they're making changes, they're winning.
Yeah, and actually thinking about it as well, like with the meta and how things have shifted around, it's really kind of blowing the doors wide open, I think, for DRX, right? Like they have, who knows what they could potentially muster up and find a new strategy, find a new approach. Heck, maybe even played Lotus?
I mean, they absolutely could. They typically do stray away from when a new map is released. We've seen that with them in the past.
Fair,
First
fair.
Champions not really wanting to go to Fracture. They teased it, and then they got absolutely bodied on it when they finally did show it. And then they said, okay, you know what? When the next map comes out, we're not going to play it for a very long time. And that's been Pearl, and we haven't seen it yet. So I think it's going to be the same treatment for Lotus at the end of the day, but who really knows?
Yeah, at the same time, though, for this team, I think they have some compositions that they've run for a very long time that they stuck with even through the chamber meta that are still going to be good. Like, they never stopped playing like that Omen, Jet, and Killjoy comp on Ascent. They could just stick to that, so it's finding that middle ground for DRX.
It's going to be a fascinating matchup for DRX, and I'm very excited to see what BBL brings to the table. But let's go ahead and bring out these two teams and welcome DRX and BBL to the stage. Before we begin, we wanted to pay our respects to all those impacted by the Turkey and Syria earthquake with a moment of silence. All the people by the tragedy. We thank you so much, And of course, our hearts and minds are with everyone that has impacted by the tragedy. Well, now, as we focus on the matchup at hand, and we obviously wish DRX as well as BBL all the luck in the world as they take the stage. You know, there's a lot on the line here, right? I think for both teams. And, you know, for DRX, obviously, it's a great opportunity for them to continue to show their continued growth as an organization, as a team. And for BBL, it's honestly the same thing as well. Both incredible journeys that these two teams have taken to get to this point.
No, it absolutely is. And I think that at the end of it all, and granted this should be the case in pretty much every series that we have at this event, given that it is single elimination, but in this one in particular, I think that you are going to see nothing left on the table.
Yeah.
Both of these teams is going to give it everything that they absolutely have to walk away victorious.
Absolutely not. And it really means everything to both these teams for very different reasons. For DRX, it's maintaining that legacy of excellence, always having top placements at tournaments. And for BBL, it's really their first showcase to show us what they have here on an international stage.
Yeah, and you know, I'm just going to mention this only because, but I do want to give a real big shout out to the BBL guys, because the adversity, perseverance to come out onto the stage and lay it all out there, it's truly extraordinary.
Absolutely.
So
One of the most admirable things that you can do.
yeah.
But as we take a look, unsurprisingly, the Lotus is banned by DRX, but Pearl is selected.
Yeah, you know, I like that DRX was like, we just don't want to do this.
I mean, that has always been the case, but the fact that they're bringing out Pearl,
Yeah.
that shows an extreme level of confidence here from DRX. Sometimes that has been misplaced confidence by them in the past, but I do know that they have been scrimming a hell of a lot to make sure they get up to stuff with this map, because they know that it's going to come into the pool. BBL, though, decide to go for Ascent, which we saw so many times from DRX. 4 times played at Champions. They walked away victorious in all of those, but out of all 4, 3 of them went to overtime.
Yeah, still, that was probably one of the absolute best maps for DRX, but it's the same to be said for BBL. They have always loved playing Ascent. It is a comfortable territory for this team, and sometimes that's just what you gotta do. It's a good map for your opponent. It's better for us. We just have to play our own game and focus up. Haven is where we land as the decider. DRX, another one of these teams that just getting rid of the new maps in the pool. No Lotus, no split for them. So we get a map pool that I would say pretty heavily favors DRX. Ascent really needs to be the tipping point for BBL.
I mean, Haven's been bread and butter for them for so very long. I thought maybe they would actually opt to go for Split or float it as a third map, just given their dominance on that map back in the day. They haven't played it since June 26th versus Maru in the Grand Final
and the map's changed.
But all time, that is one of the best, if not the best maps that they have statistically, with an 89% win rate.
All right, Prime Gaming, Agent Select. Let's see where we end up getting here from both of these teams.
This will be the first time that DRX is playing this map, so I'm interested to see what solution they go for. I see Kushner with the Yoru, and he's going to go through with it. That is interesting. This man, known for his jet, he's going to pull out something a little bit special here. I think at this tournament, if you have a gimmick, it's single elimination. You go for it.
This is not what I expected at all, honestly, from the side of the RX. Just given that we've seen quite a bit of Neon in the past on Pearl, I thought perhaps we would see RB playing that one, since we typically see him playing it on a Fracture as well, but he's going to be shifting over into playing the Astra here for the squad.
Yeah, and DRX, that double controller composition, meaning they're going to be really strong at holding space on the defense and locking things down in their post plants, but they don't have that Cypher Killjoy to kind of shore up gaps.
Yeah, for sure. But if they can still use that double controller to have some really good tempo control and shut down and control Kushner, that could be the tipping point.
Still, it's the Yoru. It can just TP past that utility.
Very true.
All right, here we go. It's time to turn over to 2 guys that are absolutely dripping in caster clout. It's Brent and Sideshow.
Thank you very much, GB. Yeah, I don't know much about clout. I mean, sweat, most definitely. You know, it's quite hot. The heat's rising.
It is warm in here.
The heat's rising, and the tournament is definitely heating up across the board on top of that as well. Because remember, single limb so far all the way in this lock-in tournament.
Which is wild.
Yes, and, you know, as Des was mentioning, Josh, you know, gives room, I think, for a bit of unorthodox composition, some gimmicks as well, and we're seeing it right off the rip with it, with Kushner playing a Yoru.
Yeah, I think this is really unusual, especially considering that it was DRX's map pick.
Yeah.
So this isn't something where they've decided to pick Pearl and go for the pocket pick of the Yoru, but they're allowing Pearl to be picked into them. Very strange. I can't really understand how BBL would have known that DRX picked Pearl. Again, first time we're ever seeing this dominant Korean team play the map. And they're coming out here with a Sova too, which is slightly interesting, especially considering that we don't know how long they've been practicing with Zest.
Well, here we go. Pistol round about number 1. Already you're seeing that Yoru come out.
Yeah, immediately teleporting over to B.
Yeah.
That was just off a bit of a peek into A main, but they might have pulled the trigger just a little too early there, because now they're starting DRX to take A control off the back of the Sova drone.
It looks like a bit of an A split just being set up. Obviously, Suchny just holding that angle, that position. This IGL who's come in as a new addition for BBL, hoping to bring the extra level, the next evolution for this team, because BBL full of talent.
Definitely. Recon Dart back online at possibly the perfect moment.
That's a great time for it. Yeah, the knife is going to get that suppress going, moving forwards through the cloud burst, and that's going to be spotted. Beautiful little reveal there, and a lovely flash on top of it through the back. Still, it's going to be just the 2 for 2. Kusha into the back of the site, trying to lay claim, take out a couple of these players, but RB standing. 140 health now, has spotted just the one player with a not in a great spot. Flick of the wrist, you've got to be joking.
What a way to announce yourself on the stage at lock-in. That's a monster clutch from RB.
It's ridiculous.
Really difficult to win that one as well. 2 players that can just face him at the same time, and he flicks around. So precise there with the Ghost.
Yeah.
What a Red Bull clutch.
RB, over the course of his career as well, has kind of just evolved into this bit of a flex player, honestly. Just fills in the gaps of whatever DRX need with their compositions.
Definitely true. And a player that's been under a lot of criticism prior to Champions for not really turning up on the big games. It's hard to say where do the big games begin at lock-in? Every game's
big, man.
Every
game is big. And is this correct? Is this a timeout being taken?
After the
first round, the pistol?
I mean, that would be really surprising if it was a tactical timeout.
When you see things like this, typically if it is a timeout, it's usually to do with nerves. There's nothing strategic that they could have adapted to.
No.
It's usually like, okay guys, deep breaths, calm it down a bit. Coach is spotting something, things aren't quite going their way.
Yeah, going wrong in the comms or something like that.
And so you're shutting it down as early as possible.
I mean, man, this is early. This is early to be burning a timeout. It is a technical pause, though, rather than a tactical one, so that does make a lot more sense.
Yeah, that makes way more sense, yeah.
But I think this gives us an opportunity to just talk about what we were thinking about at the beginning of the day. What a seismic upset this would be, right? With one of the teams that people think the least of. Only, I think it was the audience had about 3% of people going for BBL. So that would be a massive upset over DRX. I think probably the biggest upset of the alpha bracket if BBL were able to come away here. And part of the reason is just that DRX are so consistent at dealing with teams that are a tier below them. Brent, I've got a stat that blew my mind when I looked it up. DRX only had 1 loss across the whole of 2022 to a team that didn't finish top 3 at an event.
That is absurd.
So if you're not tier 1 of the tier 1, if you're not on a podium, DRX are not losing to you.
I think it speaks to the consistency of this team, DRX. I mean, they're always good for early on in the tournaments, just being able to sail their way through. And it does throw a bit of questioning, I think, into it when we were talking about the roster that DRX was running, because they were saying, in interview Stacks, interview with Yinsu, saying that they were going to be running with Foxy 9.
I mean, quote, 99.9% chance we run Foxy 9. And you heard from Mimi as well that, as far as she's aware, that was their game plan heading into this event. So the question becomes then, was it a deceitful misinformation campaign?
Yeah.
Or was it a last-minute scramble with the roster?
And if that is the case, it's going to be the latter, then they are splitting that practice time with different compositions. It shifts around the roles quite a bit as well, because you would be taking Buzz off that primary duelist.
Yeah, but the thing about DRX, and I'm sure this is what Seth would say if he was in the conversation with us, is that they've played this style before, and they've played the other style too.
He's nodding at us right now.
RB has been that entry duelist where you put Buzz over on Killjoy, and then they've also had a really great run at Champions where Buzz was just playing Jet. And I think this team can get really deep and might even be considered one of the tournament favorites if they're in good form, just by running Buzz, Jet, and the standard roster that got them deep at Champs. Yeah. There's still, tons more games to go and there's tons more rounds here, but nobody's counting DRX out of potentially being a tournament favorite.
No, it's almost a given, I think, as well, when you hear most people talk about this tournament. It's the rosters that have their core intact, going from last year to this one, that gives them the biggest advantage, obviously. You think about it, don't need as much time as other teams. You can reuse some of your old defaults, some of your old strats that you might have been pulling out. Obviously, we did shift away from the chamber meta, but even still, it does save you a lot of time in terms of preparation. You think about teams that have completely rebuilt their rosters.
And that's what's interesting to me about BBL, is that they've brought in a new IGL that wasn't, as far as I'm aware, originally part of that like first partnership roster that they put together, you know, when all of that got announced. But they realized that it was required to bring in Sony and add something different, something thoughtful to their game, which, as the desk were breaking down, it's quite difficult to find Turkish-speaking IGLs at the moment.
It's a role that's definitely lacking. Well, the tech pause will be ending momentarily, hopefully. Fingers crossed, just a quick restart of somebody's PC. We'll be getting back into the action, but you're exactly right. And I think the hope is with BBL, obviously, the addition of Suchny, just, I think, adding the next evolution, that extra dimension to BBL, because, like I said prior, this team is stacked with talent. Individually, these guys, you know, seeing clips of Executioner with the shorty, I think that guy literally burned into my retina of him just playing up close as a chamber player and pulling off some absolutely miraculous stuff.
Yeah, the individual skill is absolutely there. And I think for the composition that you're seeing them play now as we head on into the second round, by the look of it, is going to rely really a lot on Executioner.
And how well he can sync up with the rest of his team, obviously the breach as well.
And make the reads on where the play is going and whether he can rotate to bolster the defenses in time.
Yeah. Drone used on the corner there. Bit of space gain now, but remember, a bit of a weaker buy, just the eco. BBL, Brave is holding up close and personal. It's going to have to get a lot of work done, honestly, for them to stand a chance. One kill, but instantly traded.
Aslan not checked in this position,
not checked at all. Look at him, still up close behind the box. An opportunity. Yeah, well, the angle's being held anyway. Did stop and deny that plant, and he's bought time for the rest of his team to come back in to this one. Stun as well in play. Buzz just has to back away again for but a moment, but just two players left standing. This point just going to be most likely playing X's or just trying to go down to that spike.
DRX very firmly in control of the beginning of this, but we have yet to see any of the crazy stuff that BBL have surely cooked up for some of these gun rounds.
That's what you think, right?
They must do.
I see this comp and it just gives me flashbacks to HyperX playing it on Bind, you know, something similar at least.
Well, the HyperX Yoru on Bind was very aggressive, very in your face, always forced you to react to it. I think that Pearl might be too big of a map to be able to run that kind of style. But I am intrigued to see what game plan he's got. It seems like, just from a theoretical point of view, you get most value just from using rotate gate crashes, but that doesn't sound interesting enough to just go for it as a pick. I feel like they've got something planned that we haven't thought about. And yeah, if you just
to showcase it, isn't it?
Brent, if you just want another reason to root for DRX or think that they're going to be able to take this one and avoid the upset, never lost a map in their opening series at a VCT event. They are just hyper consistent.
So consistent. Most people have them going quite far in this event. See the beginning of this one now with the rifles in the hand of the BBL players. What can they cook up now? Nothing too out of the ordinary. You can see that gate crash is going all the way, slipping into the back of their spawn over towards A.
And there's a turret here that'll take contact with Suchny maybe droning off it. Certainly the nanoswarm popping so that they can halt the advance through art.
But just an exchange of that utility for now.
But Cushion has already read the play. I mean, they have 5 players able to respond to this A split if it does come through. And the Killjoy is giving them good utility through B Link. Good information there. Turco knows that he doesn't have to be too worried.
Flash play comes down, wall dropped as well. Very similar to the prior round, the same play being made. Dash across. Buzz is, you know, deep within the site, but it is being covered again into the back of the side of BBL players. More than ready to hand it to them, but Marco, what is that? From the jaws of defeat, just pulls out 2 miraculous kills.
And not an expression on his face. I mean, just another day at the office for Marco.
Left down to 5 health, but he's bought his team a lifeline in this round with the 2 of them alive. Going to be rotating all the way back Now over towards B.
And this is where things get sticky, and this is where DRX are starting to understand how BBL are playing, because with those, I guess you could say almost a 5-player stack over on A as the hit came through, they realized that B is just completely open and that they can go back here. And this almost looks like a save round for BBL, but I think they'll give it a good college try. See if they can find a pick early on. But otherwise, it would be devastating to lose both of these rifles.
How do they want to play this one? Mako is close onto this corner. It's all about how you clear it. And that's a good covering fire. RB swings at the precise moment to set up that crossfire. Not giving any easy targets still. Players are low enough, but a pre-fire is going to reveal the positioning in the footsteps. Makes it more than clear for Mako to clean up. What a round by him. This guy, a true animal.
Yeah, Mako is an absolute beast. Definitely one of the best players of 2022, and I would put the house on him being a consistent superstar player for DRX in 2023 as well. He's just always there. I mean, look at the face. There's no reaction to these plays happening. They're all just expected. Yeah. He just is so cool, calm, and collected in every moment. And that's the bonus round converted for DRX. Even when BBL had a good read on the site hit coming through and crushed a lot of it, still not able to convert the round.
Stun pushing them back for just a moment, but yeah, the guns not too ideal on BBL's side. I want to see them cook up something special, honestly. Take a couple of risks now that you're running, you know, a bit of a weaker buy. Why not?
Do you want to see them use the Yoru ult?
I'd love to see them try and cook something up. Seriously,
I'm not sure this is the round for it.
Maybe if an opportunity presents itself, but for now it's very passive play. Obviously looking to contain in mid, where that's where all their players are, pushing up with the drone as well. I wonder if that's going to be heard by RB, who was holding the flank. But just contact plays.
And DRX are getting some great information off of this. The fact that nobody's here, nobody's home.
Knife is good. Stun to try and disrupt that as a... Again, the back of Horse was just being cleared out. You can see Stax now going for the plant out in the open, facing away just in case a flash does come over the side. That Horse control going to be very important to hold on to. Buzz at a slight off angle now.
And it's a really open plant too. That's going to be interesting if they try that in the gun rounds as well. Wow. But the crossfires and the better weapons here are just going to be way too easy for DRX to clean up.
Yeah, very fast reactions from Buzz to be able to dodge that flash coming through. That is that Prime Gaming flawless.
And I'm wondering, Bren, whether DRX are now going to have a bit of a read that B is open and that they can just walk on in. Because you saw DRX, they had no resistance to be able to get in onto the site there. They planted in a really open spot where they can play post plants from all over the place. So do they try that again? And, crucially, does Kushner try to stop them? Because in the previous round, he was using his gate crash a little bit like a chamber TP, where he's playing much more pushed up. In fact, here he comes to play B again. He wasn't there at the start.
Yeah, this time no breach stun to slow down these players, but there we go, okay.
Wow.
Dimensional drift going to be popped off here.
And that's just
aware of this, just getting some information, essentially just a human drone. Just seeing if you can spot out and using the ult for that information.
But the question from DRX is, where's he gone? Because he could have gate crashed over to A, or he could have gone to B. And look, that information is prompting a double push out of A. So now if DRX try to return back to the opposite side of the site, they're going to meet Sojny and Turco. And RB nearly did.
Yeah, good discipline though, not to bite off a little bit too much there. RB didn't recontest the fight.
But now it's the perfect response from DRX. They know that there's 2 players on the flank, max 3 people here, just shove it into B.
Oh, look at Kushner, he can't even stand still. There's a pull on one side, a dart on the other. Has to back away, and the pincer maneuver right there. Brave just cannot withstand it. Bit of a sour blind there by Kushner, but still claims the kill, not before being traded out, and the spike will go down without too much trouble.
A 3-player retake here, and Stax's position given away brings it into a 3v3.
Yeah, ball going up now. They want to be playing this one quite quickly. Bit of a tap of the spike, trying to force good fights out of it. Again, winning a couple of them still. Just down to the 1 player though. Sojny, and he's given a 1 angle, down to that 1v1. RB holding his ground, a quick tap once more, trying to force the fight.
This is so hard.
Information gathered, information gained. RB must just be able to see that he's not on it, and wow, just waiting for the star to come online. Not winnable. Time has to be played, have to save the rifle.
an absolutely checkmated position for Sochny to play. RB's almost unkillable, dancing up and down on that elevation, but he always gets to see whether or not Sochny's sticking the defuse. Really, really tough. You have to hit a crazy shot to be able to win that. And BBL now taking what I think is a really well-timed tack.
Yeah. And it's clear they're struggling, I think, a little bit with the anchoring side of things. When you see those big sight hits coming through from DRX, something that they were, I mean, really propelled onto the main stage with, honestly. The fact that people were, you know, so impressed with these big set utility combos. It's not the whole thing that makes up DRX these days. They're much more fleshed out in terms of what they've got in the playbook, but it's really hard to stand up with. I mean, it tests your ability, I think, to make sure you've got the right protocols. If you're trying to anchor it down, who's going to be shooting the dart, who's going to be making sure that they can back up a player who might just be isolated, like we saw on the back of Halls there.
I think it's really tough, actually, for BBL to find an adjustment that works here. You know, the Yoru playing over towards B long in somewhat of an aggressive position with a gate crash so that they can retreat into Halls might be an idea, but it's not as fluid as the chamber was in the prior meta. I think they're going to really struggle to come up with ideas for this defense, unless they can set up some great retakes. But even then, I think their comp is going to rely more on catching people unaware on their attack side. And with BBL being forced to take another eco round here, it is a rough start to this map.
Yeah, quite difficult.
But on the flip side, considering this is the first time DRX have played this map, you wouldn't know it, because this is looking drilled.
It is looking very, very good. With all the rumors swirling around this team about what roster they might be running in the primary lineup, looks like they have not missed a step, have not missed a beat. I'm surprised by how much DRX are actually committing as well to this. All 5 of their players just through main. And inside these smokes, that's where Brave wants to try and play to get some value. The 1 kill found, tries to pick up the rifle to recover at least a portion of the round, but ultimately is going to be falling now.
And the pit invested as well. That is so much respect.
Okay, I mean, committing this Hunter's Fury, cuts across, I think a little bit of damage done potentially, but not even that, I think, just the reveal prior from his dart that was sent flying. Investing into this round when economy's not quite ideal. It's Kushner who does have that rifle, seeing what he can do, but look at it. DRX with the utility, the nade comes down, they've probably got a few more pieces to work with as well. Mako up close and personal, spraying all over the bloody place. With the Phantom, quick tap. Really not much to be done.
And look how well thought out that post plan was. They have the Viper's Pit on top of it, but they're spamming all of their utility early on, and then that buys time for RB to go for this flank through Art. And so, you know, there's a pull on the spike, but the pull doesn't have to be used until late. RB's going to be in the perfect position for them to drop the pit and come from an unexpected angle. There's so many layers to this, and it's so difficult for BBL to deal with it on the fly. The tempo is definitely being set here by DRX, and that's not where you want to be if you're running a Yoru comp.
No, you really want to be, I think, showcasing a lot of just quirky ideas, something set that is going to be throwing your opponents off, but...
Nice shock dart.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, actually. Clears that utility that's going to be used. The double doors now forces, honestly.
Look at this aggressive gate crash.
This is nice, though. Aftershock onto the corner. Buzz
here he is.
The angle, and here it is, yeah. Gate crash forward, still holding that forward angle. A deeper position. It's going to be remaining for but a moment, but finally TPing back to safety.
And that's about the first value that we've seen Kushner really get. Outside of stacking the correct sites, which has never really worked. Goes for an aggressive play there, and it pays off. So how do DRX work in 4v4s?
And what's their answer going to be?
They have broken the Killjoy turret that was over here, so Stax is getting a lot of space to set up for an A-split. And the KO wall is devastatingly good against Brave.
Yeah, this is going to be brutal for him to try and anchor. Smokes drop down all over the side to try and split this one up into the Art. Split straight through main. The utility's just a little bit too late. Still, Brave gets the 1 kill, and luckily and crucially, he will survive. So backing away to wait for the rest of his team.
Huge play inside his own smoke to avoid the flashes.
We see the lockdown being used with Zest going down. Are we going to have any other answers for it? And taking point, Kushner wraps up the round quite nicely.
Fantastic first round to get on the board there from BBL. It cost them a lot, but it was worthwhile. And while Kushner gets 3 kills in the round, I've got to give credit to Brave for his anchoring. To be able to get that first pick and hold on to the backside control so that the rest of his team could come in for a retake, get the lockdown in a good spot. That's really important for an Astra that was potentially about to get hit by a KO ult.
Yeah. Really critical, and sometimes that first round can be the hardest one when it feels like the momentum is against you, a team like DRX.
Well, listen, the momentum is not going to stop, though, because Zest and Stax still have their ults. Big ults that can get picks or open up a site completely. You see Aslam Shadow change around his Killjoy setup. Still the alarm bot in the same place that got shock darted before, but now putting more of a focus towards B.
The drone pushes forwards. And look at this. Nothing to really offset it. They know that there's not going to be that heavy presence towards playing aggressively into B to try and contest it. Flash perfectly timed with Buzz's updraft as well to see if they can catch it onto any sort of player. Right around the corner, that's Kushner! He's making all sorts of plays. The gate crash around the side. And he's dealt with, but too little too late, honestly. 2 kills found for him.
Great kill as well from Sochny.
Beautiful.
To shut down the lurk, and BBL. 2 rounds in a row, an aggressive play from Kushner has paid off on the Yoru. He's currently 9-7. We heard Seth talk on the desk about how he's been allegedly dropping 30 bombs in scrims.
Yeah. The fear into people.
Here he comes. I mean, bit of a whiff, honestly, from Zest. Should be favored there, but Kushner's kind of full sprinting to the left.
I think you're starting to see really where the success comes from in these last 2 rounds. It's been off the back of those plays being cooked up with Kushner.
And I'm surprised by this. Buzz taking an attack operator. So maybe aiming to slow the pace down a lot and just hold angles on B. I wouldn't expect them to finish A with an op in their hands unless they're forced.
Just trying to set this one up, but it's a difficult one. The drone did clear quite a bit down B long, so it sets up Buzz on this angle, but they don't quite know if back halls is cleared. All right, that was actually a contact play. Despite the stun missing, Aslan still has the confidence to take the fight.
That's Turkish confidence right there.
Oh, yeah.
The Turkish players are always high skill, high confidence, and Buzz was backpedaling as he took the shot, really inaccurate. And now they are forced to go A, but they also don't have the op.
It's a cute little idea from BBL as well, just off that turret contact, but...
Look at where Brave is hiding here. Does he get cleared?
Abi has been late lurking this one. Zest is at back and just walks into the line of sight angle.
Vandal diff.
Yeah. Finding the target, still Kushner TPing back. Stax is there to try and take up a bit of this space onto the site. Another pop flash play. And you're seeing this guy just rip off heads. Unreal form by Kushner.
And the breach ult used in the 2v1. RB is not allowed to get a sniff, not a crumb.
Now 1v2, no time remaining. And all Turco has to do is swing off the contact of Kushner. Should make it nice and easy. Lovely little offset of the movement there by Kushner. Finding 4 kills in the round. Off the back of that, I mean, 3 of these rounds so far, the 3 in a row, really, just off the back of his own individual play.
Yeah, now sat at 13-7. He's torn open some of these defaults. And I think sometimes that's one of the best ways to play against DRX, is throw them a curveball, try and throw something strange at them as they're setting up.
If you can disrupt their timings, it's those big utility executes that could be so scary that you take the bite out of it.
And how about this? Bike taken out completely from DRX's economy. They're forced down onto a Thrifty.
Definitely weaker weapons, but still a couple of rifles to make themselves just a bit more dangerous.
Uh-oh.
And okay, well, Dimensional Drift got a bit of that information, has to back away, cannot take the fight.
And BBL have just been barreled over.
Yeah, unable to withstand it.
Yeah, Sochny and Turco was supposed to delay there and put up resistance so that Kushner could get around and make a play happen. But it all fell to pieces.
This double flank now needs to try and get some value.
Everybody from DRX is here. Everybody, all 5 players.
And they're watching it, they are. A bit of a pre-fire. Do they anticipate it? They do!
Where's the traders?
Just falling, not quite a trade, but Buzz eventually is there. He's like, all right, guys, I'll take care of him, no problems. Kushner wondering exactly how he should be playing this one.
But he will not expect everyone to be offside. you know, he still has to clear these areas, fake the gate crash.
Time is running so low. The flash, I think, for his own, or Stax is just finding his face, and yeah, not quite able to really play this one out. Just not enough time to work with.
And that round had failed within the first 5 seconds, honestly. It was a decent try from BBL to get back into things with the double retake flank, but as soon as Sony and Turco went down, that is a really tough round to recover. And a brutal one for BBL, because that's where you're supposed to be favored. You've got the guns, you've knocked your opponents down onto a half buy.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to convert those.
The ones you need to be winning. What absolute monstrous shots by Buzz.
And it's unfair that DRX has a couple of Cutioners in Mako and Buzz. Really, they should just be going at it 1v1.
Zest, let's see if he gets value out of this again with a shock dart. I mean, it's just been almost every round, I feel like, just as
Yeah, Aslan definitely needs to change that up. Also, Aslan's nanoswarm that he's putting on site is not where DRX are planting. Even if he did put it there, though, Zest has actually been shocking the plant position every time. So, you know, just layers of DRX being prepared for everything.
Yeah, making sure it's definitely going to be catching them unaware. But it is going to be 3 players holding from the BBL side, including Kushner at the back of Halls. Maybe another contact play in the works as well, maybe off the turret, because you can see Turco is in position, doesn't quite have the stun leveled, has to watch the extremity because of that alarm bot being destroyed at the beginning, but there we go, fast play, flash into the back of Halls, and Kushner, he was the target and he has been found.
4v3 for DRX, but they have Pit online. This is again going to be really difficult. The pull, great there actually from Brave. It denies the plant going down and might offer them a chance at spamming into this pit. Can anyone stop Stax again?
That's what it's going to come down to, isn't it? A bit of a random spam. They found the one target that matters. Mako falls, and so does the pit. Any sort of hopes of potentially using that as coverage? It's all down to Buzz, isn't it, at the back to try and buy time and hold on.
That was a comical double take.
BBL need to clear Buzz out of this angle. Arby, big weight on his shoulders to try and bail him out. Tap onto the spike. Do they know nobody's on this one now? Just biding their time back and forth. The dash as well into safety.
So horrible for Turco. He's just been played with.
Yeah, just nigh impossible to win.
It's like a cat with a mouse. It is just heart-wrenching to watch. There was no way that Turco was going to be able to win that one. With a player behind and a player in front, and neither of them wanting to face him, just threatening, teasing.
And no fair fight given.
And DRX in such firm control of this map, despite heroics coming out from Kushner and Soshny at times as well.
One more round is available to them in the half. And the success that we've seen for BBL, typically the rounds they end up winning is when they disrupt a lot of these hits that are coming through. Making sure that they don't let DRX get comfortable when they're, you know, just offloading a utility into a lot of these sites.
There is no alarm bot for the shock dart to hit this time, but it did a bit of damage to Brave, so he wasn't quite aware that the shock was coming through. Nevertheless, Brave might not be expected right here. I think that smoke could have given it away, though. It's certainly given the game away now.
War bangable there, but does get out with his life. The drone just going to be used to clear through to one side of mid. Well, look at this, DRX making sure that they also hold positioning here towards Buzz. Operator in his hands. The attack operator coming out.
And BBL are lacking so much info.
And really just forced to swing into them, find these fights, because that's what they need, information. And guess what? That lurk timing pays off. Flash off to the corner. Buzz staying safe, beaming them down one after another.
What a play by Stax. BBL a bit too timid. Didn't realize that Stax had already crossed because they weren't able to reclaim areas of art. Too many players over towards B-Link. And that's it, all sealed up. Only Kushner on the Yoru with an admirable 14 kills, but just not enough to get his team into this first half. And everybody on BBL has just got to be thinking about their attack side.
Yeah. Nothing to lose in this round for Kushner. He's going to try and make the most of it.
I mean, what a highlight this would be.
Yeah, if he manages to make this work.
The 1v4 clutch. with players scattered all over. A KO ult to deal with.
And it's such a hard one to win, because Stax, look at this, he's got the heaven position held. A crossfire, RB playing close to the site, they know his position now, and a bit of util will finish it off. A 9-3 half for DRX, looking cool, calm, and collected, and firmly in control.
I think for the Turkish fans, it comes down to, do you believe in curses? Do you believe in miracles?
Certainly. Gonna have to see some big things from BBL, I think, on this attack side as well. Try and get the most out of Kushner on that Yoru. He's putting up some amazing results. Like we said, 14-9 is his scoreline, but it's going to take something very special, I think, some curated plays across the board. But we'll throw it down to the desk to break down what we've seen of the first half.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And, you know, expected dominant start there for DRX, looking very, very strong. And I know, Seth, one of the guys you highlighted at the beginning of this tournament was Mako, and, well, how's he doing so far?
He continues to be a god, just unwavered by anything that happens in the lobby. He gets put into a clutch position. He's just like, yeah, whatever, okay, I'll shrug that off. I'm not going to be too bothered by it. He's just playing it to a T. Only has gotten caught out really a handful of times. And his ACS is looking incredible right now. He's averaging a kill per round, and he just continues to be absolutely excellent here for the squad.
And he hasn't reacted one bit.
No.
He's just been stoic, sitting there, playing his game.
Mako's the type of guy to go to Disneyland and just not smile. But, like, he's really enjoying
they
everything.
take a picture of him on the ride.
You know? Yeah, Mako's just there the whole time. He really, but he likes it though. Yeah, you know he enjoys it.
The funny thing is, even with now having the hair grown out, it makes him even more of a gentle giant than when he had it cut short. So now he's just like even more of this like just staggering figure who is just constantly calm.
Well, another guy that's enjoying the ride right now is Kushner. Maybe the only guy on BBL who's having that bit of fun.
Yeah.
It feels like the only 3 rounds that we've seen them win were the ones that he was in. And as we take a look at one of these rounds, I was actually pretty impressed with what they were able to do with this Yoru here, at least in the moments they got the value. This starts off really well for DRX. They get an opening pick, they're well set up to take space, and then he's able to get on forward and take down Buzz before getting out on his own. There was another moment just that next round where he was able to do pretty much a similar thing where it was a fantastic execute towards B. He gets in, wins it, and right here you can see he's the man to close it out.
Yeah.
Kushner is the beginning, he is the end, and now we are heading into the half where he should succeed, where things should have been cooked up for him. This is where you can set that pace, and Kushner needs to.
He absolutely does. I mean, he's just shy of that 15 kill mark, so almost halfway to 30 at the half of the game. Maybe he can drop the 30 bomb like we heard, because talking to Vlad at the hotel, this guy is incredible. We're seeing that right now, but we need to see a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing BBL's attack, especially with that Yoru, but DRX, you know they're ready for it. Let's send it back over to Brendan Sideshow.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more with the desk. I think we've got to see something cooked up on the BBL side for this one. 3 rounds is really the buffer they've earned in that first half. So in the past, Josh, when we have seen the Yoru working on that big stage, it's often a ton of prep thrown behind it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And we didn't really see too much cooked up on the defensive side. There was a set strat like that.
It's a fast play towards to take that A main control. Looks like the goal was to try and get as many of these orbs as well into Kushner, try and prioritize his ult.
Is the plan here for Kushner just to send the gate crash towards Flowers or something like that? You might be able to get into some absurdly unusual positions.
Careful here.
I think you have to be ready for it, honestly, if you are DRX. Now, listen, I haven't been following all the tips and tricks when it comes to Yoru, but typically, as long as you keep an eye, I think, towards spawn in some way, you should be ready for it. But that's not what they've got cooked up for now. It's a slow play, still holding on to that A main control. And it's a drone to try and fake some presence into the connector. There's not much else being pushed behind it, so DRX not really biting. In fact, Stack's going for a very fast play. It's a pop flash out of the smoke, one after the other. The crossfire connects with RB. Down to just 2 players left standing. A bit of run and gun in action, but ultimately doesn't do too much for them. DRX take their 10th round.
And that might well be a dagger to the heart of BBL. They had an idea there on the pistol round. You know, fault line, flash, Kushner was supposed to follow it in the gate crash. And that was going to provide a lot of pressure on anybody anchoring the back side. But RB wasn't in a position where he got hit by any of it. And the rest of the DRX players were very fast to punish the rest of BBL who were trying to get in through the choke point. The timing was pretty much there from BBL, to be honest, but DRX is still just so clean at dealing with it. And there was no plan, not really many kills, so BBL can't really even get in a good position to force this. It's just going to be a terrifying 11th round on the board in all likelihood for DRX. And I feel like, Brent, after their third place result at Champions, this team has got a swagger about them. I don't know whether you noticed it as well, but just hearing them talk in the interviews beforehand and how they're discussing their team and their chances and stuff, there definitely seems to be more of that swagger of, we know we're a top team.
Wow.
Oh, and Stax just followed the gate
but
crash all the way.
Exactly what we were talking about. The gate crash is going into spawn. If you're aware of the play being made, there needs to be some sort of follow-up, but Stax was just tracking it down, waiting for it. But
yeah, Kushner hoping that he just got through there for free.
It's DRX playing with a ton of confidence behind them. Incredibly consistent team, and they're a team as well that, you know, the evolution that BBL are hoping to go for, I think, with the addition of their new IGL, adding a couple of more layers to their game plans. Unfortunately, had to go up against this absolute masterclass team that is DRX. Obviously, the series not over by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely a rough one as far as first round matchups go here at the lock-in tournament.
Definitely very rough. But there's a long time before this BBL team has to, you know, compete in the EMEA VCT, so it's about going as deep as you can in the tournament and pulling away as many learning lessons as you can as well.
Yeah.
Here would be a great round. Stop the DRX bonus. See if they have any plans. Maybe you need to approach this round a little cautiously yourself and then go into a set strat. But I definitely want to see something. I know they've been out there watching the Gordon Ramsay shows, cooking stuff up. They've got to be. The recipe book is in their hands.
You got to cook something up special, but it looks like all 5 players moving forwards. That's drone taken out nice and early. Buzz taking a tremendous amount of chip damage, just has to back away and does have the shorty available to him. This corner isn't clear. It's a flash play, and Buzz, I don't know how much he could see in that scenario, but picks up the rifle. Revealed along B long. Taken so much damage. Exchange of the weaponry because Buzz is the weaker player. They have all their players watching these angles.
Just read it so hard.
Here.
The flash was perfect as well, but
yeah,
you can't exactly miss with a shorty at that kind of range.
Now just trying to take this fight. Flash is sent through to utility. What should have been a must-win round for BBL is looking
It's looking like a save, to be honest here, Bren. You're 3v5. You don't want to give better rifles to them. I know you can't really call that in the moment. You've got to believe in yourself, but this is going to be a disaster for BBL here.
Yeah. Brave spotted out. A bit of tag there. 9 health. Left alone. Has the most to do, and just as he runs out of bullets, the trade in play. DRX entering now map point.
And we've seen even some really good teams get slaughtered like this by DRX at the beginning of tournaments. They just always come in so incredibly hot. And yeah, look at that. Full blind. Absolutely full blind from Buzz. And still getting the kill. And Kushner was not happy about that one in the slightest.
That's a hard one. It's got to be everything invested now if you are BBL.
But it's scraps.
Certainly is. They managed to scramble that rifle in the hands of Kushner, so not too bad. Taking out A main control.
One away now from ult Kushner. If he can try to cook something up on the fly, that would be impressive.
This angle that Stax is jiggling can be punished, honestly. If you are on the attack side, you can swing this from a high and low angle, but he's going to be jiggling it. That is really rough timing there with the utility in his hands, but exactly what BBL needed.
That was nearly an incredible counterplay, though, from Mako and Zest. Mako inside his own smoke at the same time as Zest threw the recon dart, but he chose not to pull the trigger.
Where is that orb going? I mean, just layers to this. Drop it down. Not too sure. BBL's answer, though, in the midst of all of this now, entering the mid-round.
They're droning from so far away because they have no info. Does Buzz have the confidence to get back on the angle?
Unbelievable.
Of course he does.
Star player taken out. It fills curtains. A nice stun to punish this one, Buzz. in an awkward scenario, an awkward position, but it needs to be a bit more behind it. A double push through with the flashes in play. Really, Turco, what can you do? Has to link up with the rest of his team now. Later lurk through, lovely flash. Buzz does get taken care of, but time is running low now. 12 seconds remaining. And a must-win round for them to stay in the map. Aslan holding down one of the angles. 5 seconds remaining, down to that 1v1. And the pull, surely this is not the way it ends. Out in the open, and the wide swing from RB will finalize it.
DRX coming away with a well-anticipated, but nevertheless impressive and intimidating map 1 against BBL.
They're looking scary, Josh.
Wow, they look scary.
They're looking scary. A map that
They've
they
never
haven't
played
showcased
before.
much.
They've never played Pearl before. That was their first time playing Pearl.
Yeah, and they have been cooking.
Welcome to the big stage, BBL. Oh my word, what a brutal matchup.
Yeah, 13-3. Quite the dominant showcase. Respect to BBL, I think, as well. Just trying to come out with something a bit new with the Yoru play, but a team like DRX just so many layers ahead.
Yeah, they really are. And massive credit to Stax and the coaching staff too, because that takes a lot of effort to adapt to a new idea like that on your map pick. But they just did it flawlessly, without any problems whatsoever.
Didn't miss a beat with it, did they? Did not miss a beat.
Not in the slightest.
And all that talk about, the different rosters that are going to be playing with Zest, they're going to be playing with Foxy9.
Did it matter?
Did it matter? Well, listen. Map 1 in the series, Josh. Still more time.
Definitely. And BBL's map pick coming up as well, right? So BBL are going to have an opportunity. I'm interested to see Ascent. DRX have a couple of comps that they've tried there. The most recent being that like Chamberlain triple initiator jet comp. And so if BBL are picking it into them, they've got to be prepped for something like that. But we saw them go with the Yoru here, and there wasn't as much behind it as I would have liked. So time for them to prove the doubters wrong and deliver something on map 2.
Yeah, it's going to take a bit more than just a couple of those gimmicks that we were seeing showcased overall. But yeah, up next you can see Ascent going to be the next map in play here, but DRX were not messing around in the slightest.
No, not even close to messing around. So that one is going to be a doozy.
Yeah, pretty quick map 1, but don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because map 2 is coming up on the other side of this break.